Hello again.
Hey folks, peace be with you.
And also with you.
Thank you.
Peace be with you is a phrase that pretty much is taken from this week's text, because our text this week is John chapter 20, verses 19 through 29. And in this passage, wow, there's a lot going on, because at the beginning, the disciples are behind locked doors. You feeling like that right now? Yeah, kind of hunkered down, anxious, not sure what's coming next. And Mary had already shared that she had seen the Lord.
Earlier that morning, the
Yeah,
same day.
exactly. This is still that Sunday. And yet there's great anxiety. Maybe part of the anxiety came from we let Jesus down. Peter knows he denied Jesus the 3 times. And they all kind of ran off, with the exception of John, who did show up at the cross. And so there's all kinds of reasons that they're hiding. There's also the fear for their own lives because of their association with Jesus. So here they are in every aspect, anxious and scared and hoping for a better day. Sound familiar? Yeah. And Jesus comes to them. We see this over and over again, that God comes seeking us. God comes looking for us. And that's what happens. Jesus doesn't wait for them to get over their anxiety, to work out their issues. Jesus comes to them. And so here in this passage, there's the excitement and yet the fear. It's all woven in together. Jesus says to them, peace. Peace. It's a common greeting, and yet it holds the weight of relationship and letting them know, I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to reassure you. And the great beauty of what happens in this text, or at least to me, is Jesus breathes on them. They're all kind of like frantic and trying to figure out, is this really him? Do you think this is him? How did this guy get in here? What's going on? And not only does Jesus offer them words of peace, he breathes on them and they receive the Holy Spirit. I mean, this is a gift unlike any other. And when we look in the Old Testament, this whole idea of breath and soul are all the same word, neshama. And this is what Jesus is giving them, this evidence of his spirit, this essence of his soul that he is sharing with them. And it's not just to keep for themselves. It's a commission. It's a beginning point. So even when we're cloistered in and full of anxiety, Jesus comes to us, wishing, or not wishing, but giving us words of peace and assurance that his spirit is in our spirit. And then what happens?
It's always with us. The disciples, as you pointed out, were there, had a big morning. They were in hiding. Mary comes running. I've seen the Lord. Maybe not. But here at the end of the day, they're meeting behind locked doors. They're having a meeting. They're strategizing. What does this mean? How do we proceed from here? But Thomas wasn't there. Now, Thomas sometimes gets a pretty bad rap. For whatever reason, he wasn't there. So when he comes back, he was saying, we've seen the Lord. And Thomas said, no, now wait a minute. Guys, let me tell you, until I can put my finger in his hand where the nails went and my hand in the wound by his, on his side, I'm going to hold off judgment here just a minute. Now, before we throw too many rocks, Thomas was doing what all of us would and should do. We need to sit down and ask, really? Am I delusional? Is this just wishful thinking? Thomas was actually being very human at this point, and I know in the last month, they say we're going to go back to work when we say it's going to happen, but I don't see when. So until I get up, go to work, then I'm kind of stuck where I am. But then Jesus appears to him. And he offers. And I don't think it was condemnation. I think he came in and said, "Yo, Thomas, here's my hand. No, go ahead. Go ahead. Oh, here's my side. Go ahead." Not condemning. He honored Thomas's questions.
Yeah.
And Thomas, I think, was quite in awe when he reached up and touched the hand of the master and touched the side. And he said, "My Lord, my God." He believed.
Yeah. And he wanted that physical touch.
Oh, yes.
You know,
Yeah.
it wasn't just a matter of disbelief. It's what we're all craving right now, to be able to touch people, and something we look forward to.
And that's really become even more. I have become more aware of that in the last month. I love touching this woman. The only people we get to touch is each other, you know. And I have always been a toucher. I've always been a hugger. And here was someone with whom Thomas and the rest of the disciples had traveled for 3 years. They did everything together, literally everything together.
Yeah.
And now that loved one was gone, but here he could touch him again. He had been crucified, but he didn't stay dead. Now Jesus said to him, "Now blessed, Thomas, are you, because you have seen and believed. But blessed are those who believe and haven't seen." Yeah. And this has really been a test for us this month, folks. My faith has been tested in ways that I had no idea, because I'd never had this opportunity. And at times I found myself locked behind doors that I didn't know I'd locked. And Jesus continues to present himself in those moments. Now, what we do with it is up to us. Do we continue to disbelieve, or do we reach out and touch the master, as it were, and believe even though we can't see?
Yeah, because the invitation is there. He shows up. God comes to where we are. And that's the case. Chapter after chapter, Old Testament, New Testament, God is the God who seeks.
Who seeks, and who is with us. So this week, God be with you. He is in front of you, behind